Welcome. You are listening to Chicas from China, the podcast where we talk about solo travel, finding community, and breaking stereotypes. I'm your host, Megan, and today we are meeting with Bella, one of my good friends that we met in Berlin. Hi, Bella.
Hi, how are you, Megan? So happy to be here.
Good. Yeah, super excited for you to join us. We wanted to bring Bella on because she has a really cool, interesting story. And Bella and I actually met in Berlin a couple of months ago in December. And we met through this Facebook group called Girls Gone International. And it's one of my favorite ways to meet people while traveling. It's a great way to meet friends and also find people to do things with. Bella, do you want to give us a little introduction about your background and how you ended up in Berlin and where you're from?
A little bit about myself. I am Mexican American from LA, California. So I am an LA girl. I have been living in Berlin for about roughly 8 months. And a lot of people ask me why did I move to Berlin coming from California since Berlin weather's like is not the best type of weather. California has very sunny type of weather. The beaches are nice, and I guess the people are welcoming. In Berlin, they can be a little bit more serious and distant. I have been living abroad for about 4 years. So I moved out in 2020 when the pandemic hit, but I originally started living in South Korea in Seoul. And after that, I just never went back to LA. I just really love the adrenaline of living abroad and meeting new people and learning about new cultures and languages. So I just decided to keep going, and I have been doing this ever since. So I'm not sure when I'll stop or if I'll ever go back to LA. So right now I'm good in Berlin as of
Yeah.
now. Yeah, so
That's so cool.
yeah,
So what inspired you to start traveling? You said that you first went to South Korea. Why did you choose South Korea and then how did you get started?
well, it's crazy because so one of my sister lived in Spain in Madrid, and I went to visit her for I think it was Christmas time, 2019, and it was my first time traveling to Europe. I have traveled to Mexico before, but it was a different vibe since I was always with family and I knew the language. So I was really excited to go to Europe, and we traveled all over Europe. We went to about 10 different countries, 12 different cities, and I was just amazed of what like world was about. I just thought it was just I mean, I knew there was a world out there, but my world was more of California and Mexico City, and that's about it. And when I explored Europe, I saw, wow, there's more to life than California and Mexico City. And met so many people that knew like three, four different languages that came from multicultural backgrounds and families. And I was just amazed that there's people that exist in the world like this. And that's when that little traveling bug started. And I remember going back to LA in February. I went back to school, and then March of 2020 was when the pandemic hit, and I just kept thinking about my trip and just could not stop imagining my life outside of California. I saw my sister living abroad and like the stories she would tell me, her experiences. So just felt like I missed out on that when I was in university. So I was thinking, maybe there are some job opportunities abroad. And I am an English teacher. So I was researching and I ended up in South Korea. And it was very random. I did not know anything about South Korea. I did not know anybody that has ever been there or worked abroad. And I was a little skeptical at first, but it was the best decision of my life. That's how I started discovering new cultures and new people. And it was definitely a life experience. A lot of people would say that South Korea is really nice because of the K-pop influence and the K-drama. So a lot of people romanticize South Korea. I did not have any knowledge about South Korea. I just knew it was a Korean country. That's it. I did not know anything about K-pop, K-dramas. I did not know anything about the language. I did not know anything about it. I just saw there were some job opportunities and that they paid really well. And I just wanted to get out and do something with my life. And that's how I ended up there. In addition to, I just got out of a very long-term relationship. So I
Mm.
just felt like I need to leave or else I'm going to go back to this relationship that was not good for me. And I needed to have a lot of space in between where I would not go back to him and he would not go back to me. That was my opportunity and I took it. But living in Korea was really interesting because a lot of people, like I mentioned, romanticize South Korea because of the K-pop industry and K-dramas. However, there are obviously the cons about South Korea. In my experience, beauty standards were a huge part of the cons of living in South Korea.
Mm.
There's this immense pressure of always looking perfect, makeup, hair, clothes, your style, especially a lot of pressure on women to look almost like dolls. That is something that I never really experienced because back in California, people just don't really care. Some people just go outside with their PJs and nobody really says
Yeah.
anything. But over there, it was like you have to look almost
Done
perfect,
up.
especially working in an international school. You're the teacher, you represent the school, and the parents see you,
Mm.
and you have to try your best to adapt to the culture and their perspective of what beauty is, even though you don't agree with it. So, for example, they really liked very light skinned teachers. When they think about Americans, they usually think about white Americans. They don't think about Mexican
Interesting.
Americans, Chinese Americans, Indian Americans, and so on.
Yeah.
They just think white people, which
Yeah.
there's the white Americans, but there's the minority of us that are also Americans. So it was an interesting experience having to explain to them, yes, I am American. I know I don't look American, but I promise I am. I have my passport. Like I
Yeah.
know English. Your child will be okay. He or she will learn good English, don't worry. And whereas white American teachers did not have to really prove themselves in the Korean society and workplace. So that was something that was unfair in a way, but that's just the way it was, or it still is. Definitely having to fit into and adapt to their culture was very, very difficult because they're very conservative. They're very old school as well. And it's a whole different country, a whole different culture. So a lot of my views, my beliefs did not really correlate with how they live their life. So that was my first experience living abroad and having to really learn the culture and the language and the society and everything, the manners, how to communicate with them. For example, one thing that I remember was that I couldn't wear the clothes I wanted to wear. So, for example, I couldn't wear like very see-through shirts. I couldn't really show cleavage because it was a very conservative environment to be in. So I had to change the way I dressed. I had to put on a lot of makeup. There's a lot of pressure of putting makeup on. I remember my
Mm.
boss telling me, "I want you to put makeup on so you can look presentable." And I thought to myself, "Oh well, I mean, why do I need so much makeup?" And
Oh,
it was enforced. Like, and a lot of teachers have the experience where they arrived to South Korea liking natural beauty, but they were forced to implement makeup and not just like a little bit of blush here and there. Like Korean beauty standard of makeup is a whole different. I mean, you've seen the K-pop idols, the K-drama actors and actresses. It's very doll-like.
yeah,
Can
yeah.
look very not really real. And I'm not Asian, right? So my eyes, my face, the shape of everything, I don't match with the Korean standards.
Mm.
So I remember learning how to do my eye like the aegyo, I think it's called, and my eye makeup and just try the contour, like just try to fit in to a point where I
Wow.
was just like, you know what? This is my face. Sorry, guys. I cannot change my ethnicity. This is the best you're going to
Yeah.
get. I'm just going to do the best type of makeup I know how to do. And eventually, obviously, they were like, okay, this is her makeup style. Okay, whatever. We're not going to purchase
That's
her. But yeah.
That's so interesting because I didn't realize that they would want to enforce their beauty standards and their look onto somebody who wasn't Korean or who wasn't Asian, right? You would think that, okay, if they're saying you need to put on makeup, that you would do it based on your standard, your facial features, the way that you have your typical beauty routine. But
Mhm.
it's interesting that they actually enforce their beauty standards onto even foreigners. And it's something that I noticed noticed recently I watched, I think this TikTok video about a K-pop group that all four of the girls were not Korean. And at one point, there were more members that were Korean, but they dropped out. So the remaining people were actually, none of them were Asian. But when you look at their videos, they are all made up and glammed up in the Korean style. And so the hair, their makeup, the way that their eyes are done make them look more Asian, even though they're not. I think one girl's from Russia, so she's like pale white, but they still do her makeup to make her look more Asian, which is so crazy to me. And I guess I understand if someone else is doing your makeup because maybe that's the only way that they are used to doing it. But to have teachers or for you to feel like you need to acclimate to their standards in your beauty routine is just crazy to me. That's the first time I've heard it, but it makes sense. And then when you were talking about finding jobs and English in South Korea, I remember I met another girl from, she's Asian American. She's actually Vietnamese American, also teaching English in South Korea. And she said that she was having the hardest time getting English teaching jobs in Asia because she's Asian. And so I feel like there's kind of that discrimination there where they feel like if you are not white or Western or Caucasian presenting, then your English speaking, English teaching abilities are called into question. And I guess it's interesting and something that I'm surprised about, but maybe I shouldn't be surprised about. But people, I think, had the perception that, oh, she's Asian. How can she teach English to us? Right? She's the same race as us. And I don't really trust her English speaking, English teaching abilities. So for her, she said she had a very difficult time looking for English teaching jobs in Korea. But now she has one. It's definitely doable. I think there's definitely schools out there that will accommodate that or are more open-minded. But I think it's a really good point that you bring up. That is something that you definitely have to think about that you may encounter while abroad.
Yeah, and for me, it was not really hard finding a job. What I did notice is that I had a group of friends that are Black Americans, and they had a hard time finding a job. Like
Oh,
it took them a couple. I think I had a friend that it took her like a month, about a month to get a new job, whereas for me, it was faster than that.
mm,
And I think it's only because maybe of the colorism in South Korea too. The lighter you are, the
mm.
higher chances of you getting hired. Also, beauty is really important. So you can be underqualified, but if you're beautiful or you're pretty or you fit the beauty standards, like we want you. As for someone that maybe does not fit the beauty
Okay.
standards, but is very qualified, has all this experience, they might not get a call back or an interview. So I did see that happening.
Okay.
For me, it was very interesting to see that even white American teachers also face discrimination in South Korea. They're very specific with the looks, with how you need to look to represent our company or represent our school, and so on and so forth. And they are very
Okay.
specific with not also your face and your hair and the beauty of it, also your body. So the skinnier you are,
Interesting.
the more attractive you are in their eyes. So I remember there were a lot of comments being made about weight. Even my students had these crazy diets, and I would ask them, "Oh, are you okay?" I would notice that they were a little bit tired, more than normal, and they would tell me, "Yeah, teacher, I just haven't eaten." And I would ask, "Why not?" Oh, because I'm
Yeah.
on a diet, and these are like 12-year-olds, 12-year-old
Wow.
kids. And I asked, like, why on a diet? Like, for what is the purpose of this diet? And oh,
Yeah.
I really want to lose weight because my friend said that I'm fat. Look, teacher, like, I'm really fat. And they will literally go like this and like, I'm fat. And I just felt like so
That's
sad.
so sad.
Like, there's no, you're not fat. You have, this is your natural body. But the K-pop industry, the K-drama industry has a huge impact on the beauty standards. And obviously, as a young girl, you look through TikTok, Instagram, and you want to look like your K-pop idols. You want to look beautiful. You want to feel beautiful. So you think being really skinny and having the type of surgeries or makeup will help you fit in and belong to a group. And especially at such a young age, you just want to feel like you belong somewhere. So it
Yeah.
was really surprising to hear my students going through these crazy diets of not eating for a whole day or just eating like,
Oh my
and
God.
having to go to school morning to afternoon and then after school curriculum with no food in your system must have been horrible, but they were willing to do that just to fit into that beauty standard. So I noticed right away the pressure of beauty standards and the pressure of academic standards. School education is the most important thing in their lives. Their whole lives are dedicated to pursuing a successful career, successful education, because it represents their family and they really want to be successful and have money like everybody else does want to have money and be successful, but there's a lot of pressure to perfection, physically, mentally, and academically wise as well. So that was my experience teaching in Korea, but there were also really good things about it. I met a lot of good people, a lot of friends. I had great experiences. I explored South Korea. I went to the temples. I learned about their culture. I really enjoy their food. Although they are very conservative, they have other good things about their community where they are very close with their united with their family. They are very nice people once you get to know them, and they really went through a lot with the war in Korea, and Korea was destroyed, was very poor, and they worked together to bring up their country to what it is now. So I admire them for that, and for the opportunity to be able to have gone to Korea and work there and live a very comfortable life. I do like the fact that they value education and they do really respect teachers, whereas in California, it's not really like that. Students don't really respect their teachers, and education is more of it's an option. Okay, whatever, I can just not go and do whatever with my life. But in South Korea, education is really important. It's an important key factor for success. So
Yeah.
like I mentioned, each country had its pros and cons. Personally, for me, I did not see myself living there forever. After a year, when I was asked to renew my contract, I just said, no, sorry, thank you, but no. And then I just flew to Mexico City after that. And that's how I ended up living in Mexico City. You would think that living in Mexico City as a Mexican American will be easier, but it was actually harder than in South Korea due to the
Oh,
fact that
interesting.
I teach English, but like how you mentioned about your friend that's a Vietnamese American, she's an Asian teaching English. Why is she teaching English? Why would I want my child to learn from a Vietnamese American that looks like
Yeah.
us? How, but her English, the quality of her English must not be very great. It's questionable. So it was
Mm.
somewhat the same experience for me as a Mexican American teaching at an international school, and this school was a very elite type of school. So a lot of rich kids in Mexico City attended these schools, and they thought this is the English teacher. She looks like she's Mexican. She
Oh,
looks like
okay.
Okay, yeah, she grew up in America, but she also speaks Spanish. So the quality of her English is questionable too, because I
Yeah.
don't want an actual American teacher that doesn't look like
Uh,
us. So
okay.
it's a little bit difficult at the beginning, especially with the parents. They would just look at me and I could tell they were questioning my abilities, my skills. I think they were questioning my whole life at that point. Like, why are you here in Mexico? Did you get in trouble in America and that's why you came back to Mexico? I just felt it in their eyes too.
Yeah, okay.
So it was very funny. And
Interesting.
then you would think, okay, with the other colleagues that are Mexican, okay, you speak Spanish. I was able to speak Spanish with them and have conversations. And you would think, oh, Bella, you probably had the best time of your life with your colleagues and hanging out with them. And to a certain extent, I was able to have a very nice work environment with them, but I never had any hangouts with them outside of work. We would not really see each other outside of work. So I could tell they just only saw me as a co-teacher colleague, and that was it. Not like
Mm,
someone that they will want to hang out, which is what I was looking for to make friends. And in South
yeah.
Korea, a lot of the co-teachers I had became my friends. We would meet up after work. We would do stuff together.
Yeah.
So that was not the case in Mexico City at all. So that was a little bit
Interesting.
disappointing, and I am mostly convinced it's because I look like them, and in
Okay.
a way, I think they kind of thought of me too American for them. My mindset, my values, my way of
Mm,
thinking. She's too American. She's just here for a little bit and she'll probably just go back to LA. So what's the
okay,
point?
interesting.
I
You
think that's what it was.
do you think it's a cultural thing in a way where they maybe just don't make friends at work? I don't know.
Oh, because I
Okay.
know the culture. I know they make friends with everybody.
Okay.
So I
Okay.
would see them. Sometimes I had their Instagram, so I would see that a lot of them will meet up after work, or they will go to each other's houses, or even their
Okay.
kids were friends. So I just
Mm.
knew, okay, I'm not in the circle.
You just felt
Maybe
like
it
an
was,
outsider.
yeah. And I even expressed to them, like, it's really hard for me to make friends here. Oh, don't worry, you'll find your friends. I was thinking to myself, well, why can't we be friends, right? And they would just, yeah, well, you can go over there, you can go over there, you can, there's these type of events for you to practice your Spanish. So I just knew, okay, they don't really see me as part of their community. They just see me as an English teacher that is from California, but not interesting enough to be friends with. I'm not sure what the dynamic or their perspective was, but I just did feel like an outsider. Whereas my sister, that was also working in Mexico City at an international school, she was having these team building meetings with her colleagues, and they will meet up outside of work. So I just thought to myself, maybe it's just me. I don't know. Or maybe it's the environment here. I have no idea till this day what it was. Even making friends outside of work, going to events was really, really hard because, like I said, I look like them. I look Mexican. And when they hear me speak English, they're like, ah, you're Mexican American. Oh, so your parents
Mm.
are the ones that left Mexico. Yeah, well, when we want an American friend, we kind of want someone that looks American. It's the same concept. So a lot of people
Mm.
do not realize that there's a lot of racism and colorism and classism in Mexico City, which I definitely saw that right away in Mexico City. It was a very shocking experience because, like I mentioned before, I used to go to Mexico all the time for a vacation, but living there definitely opened up a lot of delusions that I had, and reality hit like, okay, this is not like how it used to be, or what I thought it was going to be like. But it was a lovely experience. I was with my family. I was able to reconnect with them, reconnect with my roots. However, I decided to not stay because the economy is not the best.
Mm.
And
Okay.
I did not want to stay in that level of teaching forever. I wanted to move up, and I just saw it was going to be harder than in any other country due to the lack of jobs and opportunities as well because of the economy. So I just decided to maybe follow my dream of living in Europe, since I've always had that dream. And I always wanted to try either France or Germany. So I decided to come to Germany thanks to a friend I met in South Korea that helped me. She
Oh,
helped to get here. She came here a
okay.
year before, and she's like, Bella, right now it's the time. Come live with me. Let's do this. It's now or
Yeah.
never, because I do not know what will happen within the next year. And
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
I ended my contract in Mexico City. Once again, they wanted me to renew it. I said, no, thank you.
Okay.
Let me go to Berlin. It's my dream. I've always wanted to try. I even took German courses and stuff like that. So I was thinking, oh my gosh, should I? Should I not? I'm a little disappointed. South Korea didn't work. Mexico City didn't work. Why? Like, why am I doing this to myself? Why do I keep doing going abroad? So I just said, you know what? Let me just try it. If this doesn't work out, then at least I tried, and at least I'm done with moving around. And I came, and it was definitely a challenge. I think Berlin has been the biggest challenge of my life, with personal growth, mental health, dating, all combined. And
Everything.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Well,
So
how long were you in Mexico City?
So in Korea and Mexico City at the same time, I was just there for a year. I just really wanted to find a place where I could just stay and not have to move around. Coming
Uh,
to Berlin, I had that mentality. It has to work out. Like, this is it. This is all I got.
so you said that going into Berlin, your friend had helped you, right? It was a referral. But for South Korea and for Mexico City, did you go through a program to find this teaching opportunity? How were you able to get it?
In South Korea, I just Googled English teaching jobs in South Korea, and I just found the
Oh,
one with the best reviews.
okay.
And I just applied, and after my application, I got an interview, and that was pretty much it. And in Mexico City, my sister was there before me, so I had her reference. And there was a English teaching agency where they place Americans in international IB schools. So I did that, and that's how I got my job. but in Berlin, it's very different here. So in South Korea and in Mexico City, I was working as an actual teacher. I had a title as an English teacher, but here in Berlin, there's a lot of bureaucracy and a lot of certification and trainings that you need to do in order to be qualified as an actual teacher. A lot of them, the schools require you to speak at least a B2, C1 German level.
Wow.
Have. So I never really had to learn the language of the country I was in because as an English teacher, they just want you to
No
teach in English.
English.
And
Yeah.
that's it, especially at an international school where there are American teachers or English teachers. So I was shocked to learn that I had to do all these things to be a teacher. So right now I do more online or work and I work at a language school, but to be an actual teacher at a public school, there are many steps to take, which makes it very frustrating because
Got
you have to
it.
learn German, you have to do these type of trainings, you have to enroll in their program, and there is not a lot of help for expats. So you just have to find your way, ask around, ask for people to help out with this if they know about the system, if they know how to navigate it. And thankfully, I met people that know the system and know how to figure things out because they had to do this. So thanks to them, I'm able to navigate this easier, but it's definitely been a challenge with my mental health and with
Yeah.
even questioning your skills. Like, am I not good enough for Berlin? Why is it so hard to
Mm.
get like a stable, good job where I know I have all these skills and qualifications? I've been abroad and I was able to teach at a really good school. Why not
Yeah.
here? What's but it has nothing to do with you. It's just how the system is designed. It's not
Got
really this
it.
expats just, hey, I'm here, I want to work. No, you have to follow these steps and they take a long time to accomplish. So that's where I'm at
Got
right now,
it.
8 months in Berlin. And the winter here was terrible. But thankfully, thanks to GGI, there's a huge community of women abroad. And I think because it can be very lonely here. And in the winter, it can be very isolating. And I'm really thankful for these type of communities that bring these events where you can meet other like-minded people, women, actually women, and do stuff together to get through the winter and get through
Yeah.
the bureaucracy of Berlin that have there are people that are going through the same experiences as you are going through the same thing. So you feel that support that you really need when you're living abroad. So GGI really helped me out and I met amazing people through GGI, amazing people. So there's still hope, even if you feel like the anxiety kicks in, the depression kicks in, you feel like giving up, like I cannot do this anymore. The bureaucracy is too much. The weather is really bad. I can't even go out. I don't know anybody. But finding that group of people really makes a difference. At least for me, it really did. And especially when you see that they care about you and they really want to help you, it makes such a huge difference where you think, you know what? I can do this. I can get through the bureaucracy. I can get through the language barriers and I can make a life here. And that's what I want to do, make a life here because I'm done moving around. I'm just over it. I can't do it no
Yeah.
more. You might think, okay, then go back to LA. I mean, I would. And when you go back, you just can't associate or connect with the people that you once did because you're a whole different person now with different experiences and a different perspective of life that your friends from back home don't have because they stayed home, which there's nothing wrong with that. Just you each choose a different path, but the connection is just different. And you tend to just talk about the past. Oh, remember when we went here? Oh, remember when we went to this party? Oh, remember this event? And you're just stuck talking about the past. And when you bring out your present, your experiences, they just don't understand, and that's okay. But you find yourself feeling like you don't belong anymore. Like that Bella from LA is no longer there anymore.
Yeah, you've
Hopefully
grown,
I
you've
don't.
changed as a result
Yeah,
of your experiences. Yeah,
it's,
definitely. I feel that.
it's
And at
fun.
one point, you might not have the same commonalities with your friends anymore, and they don't understand the experiences that you've gone through. Now you may find that you have more in common with the people in these other communities that are also traveling and then living abroad and going through the same challenges that you are. You mentioned GGI, right? I think it's so cool that there's people who are kind of in the same boat that are also trying to make it in another country who may have made it already. Maybe they're farther along in the process. There's someone who's been there before and they've done the process. And it kind of gives you hope that you can do it, right? There's a way to do it. Someone's done it. You just have to kind of persist and, like you said, get through the bureaucracy and just figure out the system. Every country is a little bit different. And obviously language barriers and the politics and everything. But it's so cool that you're able to meet people that you really vied with, who understood how it is and understood the struggles that you're going through because they probably have gone through the same thing. I also wanted to ask you about your current employment position in Berlin. So you had mentioned that it was difficult to find a job as a English teacher in Berlin because of the bureaucracy, but you also have this online teaching job. How did you get that? Can you talk a little bit about that? I know a lot of people are curious how to make money abroad and the financials there.
I actually do both online and in-person classes through a language school. So it's not an official public school from morning till afternoon, like the ones that we know about that we attended. This is more of a language school where it's more private type of language school. So it's not really required to have certain qualifications or state exams or credentials that you need in order to teach at a public school or even private school, real school, how we say.
Got
It's
it.
more of a
Yeah.
language school if you want to learn specifically English or French or Spanish, where it's a language teacher. All you need is experience being a native English speaker and can recall the other requirements that you need. But it's better to know somebody in this language school so you can have a higher chance of getting hired.
A referral.
Yes, a referral. So that's what I did. My friend that came here before me, she was the one that talked to her language school and told them about me. So when I arrived, I already had that job with them. However, due to the visa situation, I could not legally start working with them. So I had to wait for my visa appointment. I arrived here in August and my visa appointment was for October. During that period, I was not legally allowed to work, which is really important to have money saved up and plan ahead because you cannot work legally here. Whereas
Right.
in South Korea, I already had my visa right away as soon as I landed in South Korea. So I had everything set up for me. The schools
Mm,
actually hire somebody to take care of the whole visa situation for you. So you don't have to really go through this whole immigration process by yourself. It's
see.
care of. In Mexico City, it
Okay.
was easier because I have dual citizenship. I have American citizenship and Mexican citizenship. So I was able to work immediately because of that. And here I thought it was going to be a similar experience like in South Korea where the school or somebody would guide you, but no, it's all done
Yeah.
by your own research and by asking around. And thankfully I had this friend that I met in South Korea that knew everything. She knew what papers, what documents, what office. So she actually made the appointment for me. And that was the earliest appointment she could get, which was in October. Because the appointments here in the immigration office are so hard to get. So if you're planning in arriving for the summer, make sure you get your appointment 3, 4 months in advance, or else you'll
Wow.
be stuck in this lingo just waiting for that appointment and waiting to get that visa approved and having to have some type of money savings in order to serve for
Mm,
those couple of months where you
I
can't
see.
work.
So
So that's what.
definitely plan ahead.
Yes, for I think in it's kind of similar for Europe overall, but specifically for Berlin. Yes, save at least for 3, 4 months to be able to sustain yourself. So just in case that anything happens with your visa, where there's a document missing, or you never know what can happen, where the immigrant
Right.
officer needs more of you and kind of sets you back a little bit, you have the money to sustain yourself and not have to stress about, oh my gosh, I cannot live. like this another month because I will have no money. What am I going to do? I haven't even received
Right.
these and I have to go back. Invested all
Right.
this money for nothing. So definitely have money saved up. I would say roughly about, oh gosh, I would say about $5,000 just
And you feel like that's enough for 3 months.
for 3 months. If you really are careful with how you spend your money, don't go all
Mm,
crazy going out and shopping. I think that would be good.
yeah.
I went a little bit too much, too crazy because I was just like, yeah, okay, I don't have to really work. I'm going to go out and have fun. It was not the best decision. Now I went too into the Berlin lifestyle and let's go over there, let's go over here. Oh, I want to buy this, I want to do this. Just be very careful how you spend your money because you do not know what will happen once that visa appointment arrives. I also recommend hiring a translator because they will not speak English to you. It's all German. They refuse to speak English
Oh,
to you, even though they speak English. They just are very strict about their system. So if you have a friend that speaks
interesting.
German, or there are companies here that provide translators for you that will go with you to the immigration office and translate for you, and even have counseling services where they help you get your documents ready, and they even do the whole immigration process for you. But I did it all by myself thanks to this friend of mine. I saved up a lot of money from not having to hire a professional to guide me. I'm very thankful for that friend. So it's really important to make connections because you never know how much money you can save with that. Also, you don't have to depend on other people that are strangers. And if you make connections, they are people that are in the same boat as you, are always very helpful and willing to help you because they understand the struggle. They understand how difficult it is to adapt yourself and integrate yourself in the country. So they are more than happy to help. That's what I've noticed here. There's a lot of in this community of the GGI community or International Women in Berlin community. They are very helpful. So it's a great resource and you really need to put yourself out there and meet people and talk to people and make connections like that because you never know what job opportunity or what type of help they can give you. So thanks to that friend, I was able to get my visa with no issues. I hired a translator. The visa appointment went smoothly. I got it, and I was finally able to start working. Unfortunately, my friend got severely sick and she was hospitalized. So I
Oh
no
my
longer
gosh.
had my main support anymore because now she needed my support to get her diagnosis that was a very serious diagnosis. So she was my point of reference with everything that has to do with immigration, visas, and jobs. So she was the one that got me that job in the language school. She was the one that told me about the online
Wow.
schools through these different websites. So when she got sick, I was like, okay, what do I do? Now I have to do this with nobody to help me out.
Yeah.
And that is why I really, really emphasize in making connections because thanks to those connections, I think I was able to survive and get jobs thanks to other people telling me, oh, this place is hiring. Oh, check out this school, check out this place, and doing that application. I could have done it by myself, of course, but it was definitely easier and more helpful having a point of reference with people that already been living here for a while. So that was definitely a blessing.
And on that note, what is your recommendation for finding these connections? And we talked about GGI, which is the Facebook group Girls Gone International. You met people through your previous jobs in other countries. How else are you making friends or finding community abroad?
Well, in Berlin specifically, there's a lot of apps that are not just like dating apps. These are just the apps just to meet up with other individuals. So there are a lot of events like art workshops. There's even soccer events where you can go play soccer even if you don't have experience with soccer. Other type of sports, language exchange events, even salsa, merengue, bachata dance lessons that this app has. And you can just go and meet people like that. No pressure of anything. You
Okay.
go to these events that most likely you will find like-minded people and just put yourself out there. If you stay at home just locked in, I mean, what do you expect to happen? You cannot
Yeah.
like expect like people to knock on your door and be like, hey, I want to be your friend. You have to really out there and try. So if you're an
Yeah.
extrovert, I highly encourage you to at least go to one event per week, at least. At least.
Yeah.
And there are so many events. It can be any type of hobby you're into, anything. This app has it all, and it'll be something that you like to do, and then just find your way into integrating yourself and talking to people. The good thing
Okay.
about these events is that the majority of these are in these events, are attending to these events. So you'll most likely meet other people from where you're from. So there's a higher chance of you connecting with others. Whereas if it's just pure locals, maybe it'll be harder because they tend to stick with their groups and not all of them speak English. So, and one
Mm,
way to also integrate yourself easier in Berlin is definitely learn the language, take a course, listen to German music, do Duolingo if you have to. Just find a way to get familiar with German because it will help out with not just to make friends, but also to adapt yourself into the society.
yeah, society.
I think it's always helpful to learn the language. And that way you can become friends with the locals and not just with expats, if that's your goal as well. So making friends, I believe, is a challenge here because everybody is in that mode of like, I like Berlin, I don't like Berlin, I want to leave Berlin, and they go and then they come back. So it's like a hot spot for young people to come here, party a little bit, be here for a year or two, and then they leave. So it can make
Mm,
making long lasting friendships a little bit difficult. And that is why it's best to just keep trying and put yourself out there, and you will
yeah.
meet people that want to get to know you.
I think that's a good point. I think a lot of big cities are like that in the sense that people are very transient, and especially cities that have a lot of young people, because young people will move there for job opportunities or maybe to get away from their hometown, and they'll live there for a couple years and then they'll move away to another city or maybe move home or whatever the case may be, right? And I think it's a good point that you bring up the app because a lot of people who attend events are people who want to make new friends. Maybe they're new to the city, maybe they're also expats, and they have a lot of different experiences living abroad as well. So I think that's really cool because you can get to meet both locals and non-locals in a way. And what was the name of that app?
It's called Meet Up.
Oh, Meetup. Okay.
Meet Up. And yeah, and it's free, so you don't have to pay for it. And they always have something every day. So I strongly emphasize on meeting people, making friendship, because usually, from what I've seen in the 8 months that I've been here, a lot of women come here with the idea of like, oh, finding my husband, I want a German husband, or a German, romanticize it and glorify it. And it's nice if you can. And I have friends here that are married and have found the love of their lives here. However, you can easily get not, I wouldn't say attached, but in a way attached to that significant other where you forget about your own social circle. So I've been seeing
Mm.
that a lot where once they find their partner, that's it. Nice to meet you, goodbye. And they disappear and you're like, oh, where is so and so? I haven't seen or heard from her. Whereas in Mexico City or South Korea, people still have their
Their social
their
circle.
social circle. I do not know what it
Interesting.
is about it here that makes them get that attached, but I think it's because it's so difficult to make connections here, long lasting connections. So when you find that, like you just get attached to it, you just cling onto it because who knows when you'll find somebody that you can connect with. Because, like I mentioned before, people come and go a lot here. There's also a fear of commitment and fear
Mm.
of being vulnerable because why should I if you might leave? So I think that's
Yeah.
why this attachment to when you do find it, you don't want to let it go. And as a
Yeah.
woman abroad, I believe that's very dangerous because I'm not saying that you get in a relationship or get married and it's always bound to be a horrible experience, but you just never know what can happen. Things work out or things don't work out, and you want to make sure that you have a support group so when things are tough for you, you don't depend your whole life onto this one person, that you have that support to get you through the hard times, that if whatever happens between your relationship is not working out, at least you have your social life and your friends to help you out through that time and to bounce back and get your life together. Because if you depend your whole life on one person, it can become very dangerous, especially as a young woman, where you tend to fall in love, get attached, and idealize love. So, for very young women, especially those that are in their early 20s, that can be very dangerous because you're still learning about life, learning about yourself. Love is very new still. So, I always recommend always have your circle, your friends. They will always be there for you no matter what. A husband or boyfriend might also, but as a woman abroad, I can say that your friends will always be the ones to look after you and you look after them. And there's nothing like that woman empowerment and woman support that really can make an impact on the quality of life that you are going to have in this new country. Dating is always difficult anywhere you go, and people come and go when it comes to dating as well. But if you have a solid 3, 4 friends, I think you can get through anything together, and you have activities to do, you have things to do with them, you able to connect with them, go do things together, talk about whatever life is throwing at you, and help each other out. And that is what makes living abroad bearable in the beginning. But a lot
Yeah.
of people are just so emphasize or glamorize dating abroad because, oh, like, I don't want to date somebody from my hometown, that's so boring, blah blah blah. And I get it because I'm like that too. But it's not all like Prince Charming Disney movie type abroad. It's the same challenges everywhere you go. Just because they're not from your hometown does not mean that they're better or don't have the same facing the same issues that people from back home face. So it's just a different country. But if the person is not in that mindset to be committed or maybe be committed, whatever the case may be, it's the same mentality, the same challenges anywhere you go. And the reason why I want to talk about this is I don't recommend moving abroad just to find a husband or find a boyfriend. Move abroad because you want to experience life and want to see the world and make connections and learn about cultures. If you move abroad thinking you'll find your perfect husband or because you want to try these type of men, you might get disappointed or not, but that definitely should not be the reason for you to move your whole life. You can find love anywhere, even at home, but don't move your whole life just for that idea of love. So I think the only true love will be within yourself and through friends. But Berlin's dating life is definitely one for the books. It would challenge your ego. It would challenge everything because Berlin is just filled with so many international people and everybody's looking. So just be careful with that, but don't give up
Mm.
as well. There, Berlin has its own way of doing things. There's a lot of sex positivity. There's a lot of people from the LGBTQ plus community. So it's very open minded. It's very welcoming. Whatever you're into, you will find your community here. But because of that, because there are so many options, you can often find yourself having a hard time finding a meaningful connection or a meaningful partner that will last a long time, long term, especially if you're used to
Interesting.
relationships, because everybody's just having fun. And why should I settle down if I can find better over here, better over there? I can have 2 girlfriends or 2 boyfriends. It's just a lot of sex positivity and open to all types of relationships. So if you're not into like polyamorous relationships, open relationships, friends with benefits, casual relationship, it might be hard for you to adapt yourself with the dating life here. Whereas
Mm.
in Mexico City, it's more conservative, it's more traditional as well as in South Korea, where people really want to be in a relationship, really want to build a family, really want to build something. But here in Berlin, they're like, I'm good. I'm just trying to have fun for now. Maybe in 3, 4 years, I'll think about it. Right now, I'm just in the mood just to go party, just try this out, try this other thing out, and we'll see what happens. So it can be a challenge to find a long-term relationship. So that is why I say do not move here if you're trying to look for love or your husband. I don't want you to come here and get disappointed. So move here for the experience and maybe you'll find somebody that aligns with your values and what you want, but it will probably take a while to get to that point. So it has nothing to do with you, or there's something wrong with you, or you're not good enough, or not pretty enough, or not making enough money, whatever the case may be. It's just the Berlin dating life is people just want to be free and do whatever they want. So just keep that in mind so that you don't get disappointed.
I think that's a really good point because every city, every country has its own culture. And when you talk about Berlin, I feel like it sounds very similar to San Francisco in the sense that people are open, they're very open-minded in terms of types of relationships. And I think you see that in a lot of very progressive cities. And in America, the West Coast and the East Coast are kind of like that. Whereas LA is more open-minded, in New York, but in the Midwestern states, you see less of that. They're much more conservative. They get married a lot younger, have a lot more religious values compared to other countries and other cities. And it's surprising actually to me that Germany has a city like Berlin that's so different from the rest of Germany. If you've ever traveled through Germany, you can tell that they are more German, I guess. But Berlin is its own thing within the country, just like how in the US, if you look at Texas, Texas is very red, it's very conservative, but the city of Austin is its own thing. And it's very different from the rest of the state just because of the population and the demographics that live there. I think it's a really good point that you have about Berlin and the point that you have about dating in general. And it's interesting dating when you're abroad because the locals may see you as someone who is not from the area or from a different culture, and that may be appealing or not appealing to some people. I think it depends on what you're looking for, and you're absolutely right in the sense that if you are trying to move abroad, don't focus on love as your primary target because your target should be the experience of cultures, the experience of connections, making friends, and the language, food, all of that. If you click with somebody in the different culture, then that's great. If not, that's totally okay. But I'd love to hear your experience dating abroad, Bella, and how you've been able to meet people, how you've been able to navigate it, any sort of cultural differences that you've experienced there.
Well, I think it's very popular in Berlin to use dating apps. So they have Hinge, Bumble, Tinder, some other stuff too that I haven't tried. But I usually meet people through these meetup events where you meet people through chess, sports. But I also have used the dating apps, which are very common. Now, dating Germans is definitely an experience comparing it to American men. In America, we like to sweet talk, and it's very common to have a partner cheat on you. So cheating is very kind of normalized in
Okay.
California, and people are not very direct with what they want. They'll just spin around the block. Yeah, yeah, I think I want a relationship. Oh no, I like that. Whereas
Okay.
here, German men are very direct. Okay, you know what? I just want sex. I just want something casual. I'm not ready for a relationship. This is all I can offer. Or you know what? I really want to be with you. I can see myself with you. So you will always know where you stand when it comes to dating a German man. So if you
Okay.
want to be delusional, that's really your fault at that point. Like, no, the Lulu, like, does not work here. They will tell
Yeah.
you exactly what they want from you, what they are willing to do, and what they can offer. So you will not beat your head around like, oh, what do I mean to him? What does he want? That's a positive side of it. They're very direct and very honest with their intentions, which I
Okay.
appreciate. And you can make the
Yeah.
decision either to continue like that or thank you next, right? However, German, at least from my experience, I was dating somebody and it was very lovely, but it just did not work out. We didn't match. But then I decided to be friends with this person still, thinking, oh, nothing can go wrong with just being friends. Especially he was direct and we were very direct friends with benefits. That's it, which I think was a big mistake. So it's very common to have friends with benefits here, situationships or casual ships or whatever you want to have it. So because it's so normalized here, I was like, okay, well, it's part of Berlin. Might as well try it out. Something I would never do back in California. So you can't really get yourself caught up with that. Like I said, it was a nice experience. It didn't end well, but it's a situation where you just know where you stand, and whatever decision you make with the information they give you, it's really, I mean, there's nothing more to it. If they tell you they just want to sleep with you, that's all you should expect. You cannot expect it to change. Maybe it can, but
Yeah.
based in my experience, it did not. But German men are very nice, very loyal, very honest, very direct. However, not all of them have a sense of humor, and I really need a funny guy. And the Germans here in Berlin are very open minded, but they have very limited knowledge about other cultures outside of Germany. So they might not know
Mm.
where Latin America is. They may not know what people eat outside in Latin America or in Africa or in Asia. So kind of like an American mentality, they're in a little own bubble. It's like that here too. And if they see that you look different, that you're Mexican American, or you're from Japan, or you're from this other country, we don't know anything about that country, but you look kind of exotic, and I want to see how it's like being with a Latina.
To try it
Yeah,
out.
yeah,
Just
so
sample.
yeah, you get a lot of attention, but for the wrong reasons. So it's
Mm,
like you're trying to get to know me, is you're trying to get this fantasy that you think you know me or my people, and you're just curious. So you tend to see that a lot, that you're fetishized. And it's the same in South Korea. You definitely look like you're not Korean. So what are your women like? What's a
okay.
black
Got it.
woman or a white woman. So you always are approached because they're curious to know what it's like being with a woman like you. Now, it doesn't mean that it cannot turn into something serious, but majority of the time, if their intention is out of curiosity, sometimes
Yeah.
it's just that. Whereas in Mexico
Yeah.
City, I looked like everybody else, so there was like nothing special about me.
Yeah.
Mexico City, they were just curious about why I speak really good English, and then I break it to them. Oh yeah, I'm American, and they're like, oh okay, but I'm not exotic to them. I'm not. They're not curious about me because I look like everybody else there.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
men are very romantic, are very good at sweet talking. They're very loving and
Yeah.
just want to bring the stars and moon to you, but you do it with a lot of women at the same time. So you might think you're special, but you might not be. So, but once they commit,
Mm,
it's amazing. And in South Korea, they're very traditional, very conservative. So you don't really kiss or hold hands until months after, weeks after. So they take it very, very slow, and they count the days that you start dating. So they
wow.
like anniversary for a week, a month anniversary, or they count the days that you've been together. So
Yeah.
they romanticize love a lot, and they take their time with it. So I like that. Some Korean men can be very traditional, so they expect the woman to act a certain way or be a certain way, and they want to be like the leader, the one to have the pants in the relationship because they follow
Mm,
roles as well. So they want to be
yeah.
masculine energy and you being just in your feminine energy. And here in Berlin, it doesn't really matter because they're really open minded. It's just that there's too many options. So when you have too many options, you don't want to really commit because you're always thinking, I can find something better next week. So
Got it. Okay.
those are the pros and cons of dating abroad. So
Yeah.
just
Got it.
be true to
Yeah.
stick to your boundaries, stick to your standards. Don't change for anybody, and you will find the person for you, no matter what
Yeah.
on your career and what the purpose of you being there is for.
I think that's awesome advice. And I think it's really important, like you said, to think about the culture because culturally, dating is different across different countries. So I want to thank you so much, Bella, for coming on today's episode. Really great insight in terms of work, life, moving, cultures, dating. Super appreciate it. And that wraps up today's episode of Chicas from China. Thank you so much for tuning in. You can find us where all podcasts are uploaded, and you can find our show notes at chicasfromchina.com. Thanks so much.
Thank you for having me.